Okay, who wants to learn how to own multi-million-dollar real estate properties like the wealthy? And guess what, guys? It does not take as much money as you think, and that's the key. I am Reese Treno from the Vanguard team at Manor Realty. With me is a very accomplished mortgage broker, which is actually hard to say. Most of you guys are local, but Scott and his team are national in scope and focus heavily on what we do, which is income properties. Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, really glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Reese. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm not going to take credit for this one, guys. This idea for this podcast and this subject is all Scott's. And he's right because I'm doing this, Scott. I'm buying these bigger properties now, and I'm not using a lot of my own money to obtain them. And you're right. We need to tell our respective client bases that this is the case right now. So, I mean, what do you want to say about it?
No, it's true. Listen, I mean, we get a lot of people from the whole spectrum of buying their first home to doing $300 million, projects. And I think when you make that flip from residential to commercial, that's when you really see the money because you can control commercial more, right? We know it'll be worth more if we raise the rents.
Right.
But there's just so many creative strategies. Like we're doing a deal right now, right? Where the buyer has his money for the mortgage, but he's getting potentially a VTB, right?
For the sake of the audience, though, I'm going to cut you off. When you're saying
Yep.
commercial, you're also talking about multifamily residential.
Yes, multifamily residential, retail, all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so guys, I wanted to be clear on that because I do multifamily heavily. I would never call it commercial. So it was interesting to hear Scott calling it commercial. So, yeah,
Yeah. It's more from the lender's standpoints because lenders say 4 and under is residential and 5 or more
right.
is commercial. So, because I've got my lender's hat on, I'm picking up the bad terminology
Yeah.
here.
No, it's fine. It's just, I find right now, if you compare like sort of how much you have to put down on a commercial plaza versus how much you have to put down on, converting that commercial into residential or just buying residential. Now with like CMHC programs that the federal government are providing, you can really obtain these things inexpensively. And if you're used to doing renovations, I got good news for you. There are some really, really good programs now to create that missing residential density.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
No, you're right.
so do you want to talk about specific examples or what do you want to do?
Yeah, so like first I'll discuss the strategy, right? Because we have to give people some info on the hook, right? So we have to explain to
Right.
them. So what we're seeing people do is we're seeing them develop properties. Now, whether that's a brand new property or they're rehabbing an existing property, like Reese was letting on. So we're financing up to 95% of those construction costs. So then they get the loan, they keep it for a short period of time for, a little bit of appreciation, a little bit of profits, and we refinance again and we literally pull out all our money. So they've got nothing left in the game and they're getting amortizations up to 50 years, which is just massive. So it's super cool.
Okay, so 5%, when you say 5%, not all people are mathematically inclined where they're going to go, wow, only 5%. Guys, think about it this way. You can obtain $1 million building under these programs for 50 grand.
Hmm.
Are you kidding me? And what it is, guys, you have to understand that the federal government, to put it in layman's terms, and this is why they're giving you 50-year amortizations and everything else. They're trying to give you an offer that you can't refuse. Sorry about the cliche, but they're giving you an offer you can't refuse because we need housing that badly. So they're saying, in layman's terms, what the programs are saying now is, hey, if you're going to build apartment building units or you're going to convert a building into apartments around public transit, right, around buses, basically, then here's our money. And here it is super cheap, right? What is it right now? It's got about 3.5% roughly interest rate.
It does depend on the size of the loan, right? We're seeing 3.5, sometimes a little lower than that, but we're seeing 3.5 to 4-ish, I would say is what we're seeing.
You see this? It's
Yeah.
the world's smallest violin. If you got to pay
Yeah.
4%, boo hoo. So, okay, so then you're talking about the 50-year amortizations versus a 25-year amortization. I mean, that's not helping you pay down the principal of your mortgage too much in the first 10 years, but it does really juice up your annual cash flow.
That's right. That's right. And if I could control the mortgage world and pick whatever it is that I want, I'd actually pick an interest only mortgage so that I never pay it off because I don't want to pay it off. Do you know what I mean? So the 50-year in my mind is not a bad thing. Now, someone
Yeah,
who's debt adverse, obviously they might not like that, but you have to think with the investor cap and think of your cash flow, right? And
right.
you want to look at things long term.
Yeah, so guys, for the young guns watching this in particular, it's hard for you to see 15, 20 years in advance, but I'm now a half century old and I've been investing in real estate since I was 22. And what you will find is it doesn't take long for your property that you bought, like the one I'm sitting in right now. I bought it for $755,000 back in 2014. And yes, I've done a lot of, you know, value add to it. It was already in good shape, but I improved the building over time. This $755,000 building is now worth 2.1, 2.2 million. And that's almost triple, right? In 10, 11 years now, 11 years. So when Scott's saying, hey, I'd rather just have a mortgage this interest only, some of you are going to go, are you nuts? Man, I want to own my buildings free and clear. Well, if Scott is interest only and he would have bought this building and he's an interest only mortgage at say 700 grand and the building's now worth 2.1, Scott's made 1.4 million just owning and running the building for a decade. And I'm telling you guys, a decade goes by like that,
Yep.
right? This is long game. This is not Bitcoin, crypto, tulip craze du jour. 80% of the world's wealthy get wealthy through real estate investment, but it does take time. You won't, all the hard work that you do in the first 5 to 7 years that builds up your real estate portfolio long term, those are the key years because you're not going to see it as you're grinding, right? And your car might be 5 or 10 years older than your buddy's Camaro that he just bought, right? And he's got that good looking girl in the passenger seat, and you're still grinding, right? After about 5 to 7 years, you got about 2 or 3 million in equity. And that's where Scott and I can have a lot of fun now
That's right.
taking that equity and 10Xing it into bigger properties.
That's right. And even like one other point too, and I didn't realize this when I first started investing. I discovered this much later. Some really wealthy, tax smart people.
Yeah.
They said, look, so we'll use your example. So let's say I have
Is
this
that their official
700,000.
name? Tax smart people?
I think so. I think so. They
I
got
gotta,
this.
I gotta look those people up. I need
Y-
people like that. Tax,
Yeah.
sorry.
So imagine a loan of 700,000 that I got 10 years ago. I'm paying interest only on it. Now, obviously, again, interest only is not really here. You can do it on a couple residential deals, but like that's it. So let's say 10 years later, I want to pay myself, right? And I want to give myself 300 grand this year. I can remortgage, get up to $1 million loan. So it's still tons of equity, but that 300 grand is mine. I don't have to pay CRA a dollar of tax on it because
Right.
it's all part of the package, right? So you can essentially pay yourself in the future without any taxes. And that's how you make and grow faster. So it's
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, so these are a lot of the tricks when we talk about how the wealthy do it, guys. We've learned it as we've accumulated our respective wealth, right? Me and Scott. I mean, and Scott's old enough; he doesn't have any hair left,
That's
right?
right.
I said to Scott today, "I'm having a bad hair day," and he goes, "At least you have hair, right?"
That's right.
And I said back to him without missing a beat, "At least you're consistent. I got to work on it, make it look, nah."
Yeah.
I got a haircut coming up tomorrow, Scott. We should have been shooting this 2 days. Scott doesn't even know what to say back to me, man. I just got to keep going.
But
Um,
about hair, yeah, like, when people talk about hair, it's like, you know what? If I've been out of the loop for 20 years, so I don't know what to say here.
okay, this is not what. Yeah, this hair is not what you want. The follicly challenge is not why people. There's other YouTube videos for that. So, what do you want to talk about next? I mean, I can wax poetically about my bigger projects, but that doesn't help people today. I mean, why don't we talk about sort of like
Yeah.
the smallest stuff that people would do if they want to do, faster equity gains in order to get there faster to that point where we can 10x. To me, it would be house plus additional dwelling unit right now, where you buy a house, you add the additional dwelling unit, great cash flows. The cash flows, if you do it right, typically beat duplexes. And then you can refinance and just keep doing one of those after another. So that's if you're just starting. But And those are easy enough for Scott and I to do. You just got to give us a shout. One of my teammates, Jason Ballsden, that's what he eats, sleeps, and breathes is selling you a house that's viable and profitable to add the additional dwelling unit. What's the next step up? Maybe we should talk about the next step up. To me, it's either taking advantage of these missing middle properties that there's not a lot of buyers for. And guys, you won't realize this, but there's tons of people for the smallest stuff. And then there's actually quite a few people for the bigger stuff. But in the middle, and you're talking about like 6 units to 12 units, there is nobody. There's barely anybody working that niche.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's where I was gonna go next is that
there you go. So let's
segment.
talk about it. Sure.
Yeah, so you consider places so we're in Ontario, but you consider places like Alberta, for an example. Alberta, it's more of a did you know, but Alberta will let you build up to 8 units on any lots. I mean, it's gotta meet the measurements, right? But
Sure,
you
sure.
get the sizing proper, and you can do 8. You don't have to apply for permits or anything, right? So they know within that range, like you said, the 6 to 12, they know that that's needed. So that's why they're allowing that, right? And I know Toronto's talking about increasing, but they're back and forth, but
Yeah.
increasing the amount of units you can build and stuff. So we'll have to see. But I think you're going to find, like you said, they call it the missing middle. There's actually a conference in May about this in GTA. But it's about building these units. And I think, in my opinion, I think building is better than rehabbing, but both have their uses. What's your
100%.
preference? Yeah?
100%. And I'll let you get into the Alberta stuff in a sec because I know what you're doing out there. In Windsor, what we're just starting to do now is prefab because prefab has quote unquote cracked the code. The vast majority of guys building prefab, they're still more expensive than traditional build or they're the same price. So who cares? You're not helping me, right?
Mhm.
I can do it the regular way. I can build traditional with a guy that's been doing this for 30, 40 years. You grab Luigi and build this for me, Luigi, and there's your sixplex. Now, what I found is over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, 2 companies have hit our radar in Ontario, and both of them are in small town Ontario. And I know why. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
The labor's cheaper, the land's cheaper, building your factory is cheaper. So these guys have figured out how to streamline so much. They figured out as well, Scott, when they put 2 modules together,
Mhm.
that interior wall becomes a double wall.
Yep.
And what I noticed with the one company is they've now figured out how to put them together and not double the wall. In other words, waste money, right? And they're
Money,
getting these
material, yeah.
Yeah, they're getting these things done quickly. They got a rail line right into their factory. They load it on the factory car and they ship it to, like Windsor, for example. They're focused on Southwestern Ontario.
Okay.
They have oodles of experience and they will assemble you a sixplex for, get this, about $224 a square foot.
That's awesome.
It's
Yeah.
insane. It is so much cheaper now than traditional. So these guys, we're just starting to work with them with a couple of our investors. We don't want to go crazy with it. Right? We want to make sure that what they've done in other communities for other people, they can do for us down in Windsor. But as soon as we get that checked out, anybody watching this video, if you've got about $100,000 to $110,000, these guys are going to build us a side by side, semi-detached home, technically, with 2 additional dwelling units per side. It looks exactly like a sixplex, but technically it's a side by side house with 2 additional units per side.
Crazy.
They encourage you, they'll put it on a concrete slab for you, but they encourage you to build the basement. So we had it quoted. Sadie Morrill on our team, she married one of the top concrete guys in Windsor, Josh. And Josh quoted us 36 grand for the basement, right? With
Okay.
a wall in between. The reason why that becomes important is you plop your sixplex on top of that, you wait for the dust to settle, almost literally, you rent it all out, and then you have our planning consultant, Jackie, go back to the city and ask for a minor zoning variance so you can build 2 more units in the basement. I'm telling you,
Love it.
my God. And we're looking at the projected profits. It's beautiful, Scott.
Incredible.
It's
Incredible.
beautiful, man. So that's kind of where we're going with the missing middle. And guys, remember, there's 2 ways that you make money, right? There's only 2. You either make life more convenient or you solve a societal pain point. That's it.
Mhm.
That's it. So what we're doing by adding the missing middle is we're solving a societal pain point. We don't have enough housing, and if you look at the housing, lots of people are adding additional dwelling units now to houses. Awesome. Lots of builders are doing what they know. They're going out into a bean field and they're building a bunch of houses. Great. There's guys like me and other big entities that are building apartment buildings at scale, right? Like my projects downtown are 67 units, 44 units, 70 units, and now we're looking at doing 500, right? So there's guys like us doing that, but missing middle. Who's doing 6 to 8 units at a time? I know of
Yeah.
one guy in Windsor that's doing it regularly. One. We're
Yeah.
450,000 people down here. One guy. So
I know of just a handful too, but you're right. There's not a lot.
right. Uh, Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I barely know anybody building sixplexes.
No.
Like, there's nobody. And there's infill lots sitting all over Windsor proper that you can build these on. Like, so yeah, whether you're doing traditional build or you're doing prefab. Oh, and by the way, Scott, here's the interesting one. The other prefab company isn't really a prefab company. They're building bricks and sticks, but in the factory. And then they're
That
shipping
is
it down and assembling it. So it's a traditional build, but in a factory.
Yeah, that's
And,
cool.
and they're about to triple capacity. They're literally going to build two more. They're going to expand they're going to triple their factory floor using the new federal money. And it's funny because, and guys, I don't want to get political, but when you see in the budget and you hear Carney, he's always shooting his mouth off. Oh, prefab. We're going to put more money into prefab. I'm like, why? Prefab's expensive. And now I kind of realize that those cats know more than me. They know that this is getting cheaper than traditional build. They know you can build over the winter time. You can just keep going because you're
Yeah.
indoors,
Yeah. Love it.
right? So I'm like, because I do know mass production, guys, it doesn't matter what it is. And this is why a government always gets involved early in a technology, like solar panels. Everybody's complaining, oh, we're putting too much money to solar. The reason is every time you can double the capacity of whatever widget you're building, whether that's a house or solar panel or whatever, every time you can double production, the price comes down 30%. So this is now why you're going to see the government put lots of money into prefab, because as prefab scales up, the cost per square foot is going to come down by 30%.
And if it's already cheaper, right? You said what, 225 a square foot?
These guys are already figuring it out, man. You know,
So
if
that'll
you want
be yeah.
if you want the fridges, the stoves, you want the landscaping done, if you want everything done, it's still under $300 a square foot. But why would
Yeah.
you? Like, you can grab cheaper people off of us to do the landscaping, the foundation, right? The
Yeah.
concrete work. Yeah, so
But still,
you wouldn't want them.
even if it was 3%, but they can make it 30% cheaper, right? You're back down to
You're
2.5,
back down to $210 a
210,
square
yeah.
foot.
Yeah.
Even if you had them do the whole shebang, which you wouldn't do. Yeah, because you'd be throwing money away. But yeah,
Yeah.
crazy, man. Sorry. I got on an exciting tangent there, I
Yeah.
think, a little bit. But if anybody wants to
No.
do that, reach out to us. And then Scott is doing something very similar, but in Alberta. And he's doing something that we're not doing, which is fragmented ownership. So if you don't have that 110 grand I just mentioned, Scott, I mean, what are you guys doing to solve that?
Yeah, so there's so many opportunities. So I mean, at the end of the day, if you hear something here and you like it, reach out and we'll present things to you as they come. But essentially what we're doing is we're building anywhere from 8 to 94 units as we speak across multiple projects. And because this program, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but the program, it mixes a bit of affordability with energy friendliness and or accessibility. Okay, so that's how this program, that's what you have to look at for the 95% loan to cost, right, on the construction costs. So the reason I want to bring this up is because on existing properties, it's hard to finance that because you're buying that building's problems. And if it's not set up for the program, you got to put money into it to retool it and, re-get it going.
It's certainly more complex.
Yes.
Yeah,
Where brand new, you can do it to scope, right? Like you already know
right.
what you're doing. So that's why I love your sixplex. But to lead into this, so if we're financing 95%, right? And we have builders and the whole team and everybody's on the ground, we only need to have 5% of those costs built into the deal. Obviously, there's more because we got to wait for draws
Yeah, soft
closing
cost,
costs,
carrying
legal
costs.
fees. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is more than 5%. So I don't want to just say it's just 5. But ultimately what we're doing is we're seeking investors with capital that want to invest in these new development projects. Well, maybe they lack the experience or the time to do it themselves. So then they can invest with us. They get permanent equity position. We build these properties and then the goal is to refinance it, give them their money back and keep them on as a permanent, holder of like an owner of that property.
Right.
Uh, so that's essentially what we're doing, but that can be done everywhere. It could be done on your future projects. It could in Ontario, like it doesn't have to be there. But
No.
ultimately, that's what we're doing. And I think the cool thing is that so many investors are looking for that next thing. But if you don't have the experience to build 94 units, you're not going to do it, right? So that's why you partner with people and do it. So we're definitely seeking capital on that. But just to talk about it, right? Like break it down and talk about your projects that you're doing. Do you want to go over one of your projects and exactly what you're doing so an investor could see how they could invest and grow with you?
Yeah, I mean, as far as what we do, guys, I mean, I don't do a lot of fragmented stuff like Scott. We probably are going towards creating a Southwestern Ontario real estate income trust, but we're not there yet. We're
Okay.
focused on going building by building right now. Mm, I mean, I could talk about my missing middle projects, like the 5 unit, 6 unit kind of stuff, or I guess 8 unit stuff, or I can
Yeah,
go
yeah.
after big buildings. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, we talked about the sixes. So yeah, why don't you talk about some of the developments that's going on here?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit about how you even got into it, really, too.
Oh, geez. How'd I get into what? Into
The
how'd I find
development.
these buildings?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we already owned a building, 30,000 square foot building we bought. I owned a portion of it for years. Nothing was going on with it. I was a minority shareholder. I didn't have a lot of control. I ended up doing a shotgun clause. I ended up obtaining the building with one of my investment bank partners. So, guys, once you get established, then you have a portfolio and a track record. And this is like, it's at least 5 years, right? For me, it was over 25 years. And then when you're approaching sort of investment banks that are looking to put their money somewhere, you can joint venture with them. But I mean, you got to have a pedigree. They got to know that you're going to, handle their money properly, right? But you find that rich dentist and do a smaller version of the same thing. But at any rate, the unit that we're doing an 8 unit on right now, it was a duplex originally 100 years ago, 110 years ago. Its last manifestation was as a law office,
Okay.
and now we've converted that into 8 residential units. The city of Windsor wants you to keep commercial on the main floor. So what we ended up doing was designing 2 live workspaces. So the idea is to rent them out to people that can put their wares, like their paintings or whatever in the front, and they can live in the back. And then the other 6 are just, 1 or 2 bedroom apartments. And then the reason we bought that place is we wanted the parking lot at the back, right? So as of recording today, we're only what day's the date? Tuesday. 3 days. 3 days away from 6 of the 8 units being complete and ready
Nice.
to rent out. Yeah. So ESA, the Electrical Safety Authority, is going through today, and then once they're ready for occupancy, we bring in the occupancy permit people. These things, guys, 5 years ago, used to suck to get to. It would take forever to get through the bureaucracy. It was a shambles. This particular project I'm talking about, we submitted our original plans and package, full package. About 100 days later, I hadn't heard anything, and I had to talk to the head city planner about something else, Tom at the time. And I said, "Hey, Tom," I said, "Yeah, what's going on with my 691?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know. I don't see it in the computer. Let me take a look." He called me back next day, and he's mortified. He's like, "Reese, I think we lost your file." Think about that. 100 days. Think about how much 100 days costs when you're
Yeah.
carrying this place empty, right? There's lots of file. Doesn't exist, right? These days, that doesn't happen. These days, you're now uploading to the cloud. And why this becomes important when you can upload to the cloud is before you had to submit the same document 5 to 6 times to all these different bureaucrats. It was all fragmented, different departments. They don't talk to each other. As soon as it's on the cloud, the coolest thing that happens is A, you only have to submit your documents once.
Okay.
B, 90% of the time, I can tell which bureaucrat is not doing their job
Yeah.
and is holding up my file. Now, the city gives me a development assistant coordinator. So if you're doing any developments at all, even these missing middle projects, you can get a DAC. So now all I have to do is reach out to my DAC and go, hey, so and so's not doing their job. Literally 24 to 48 hours later, that bureaucrat has done their job.
Love it. Love it. What an improvement.
We are moving so much faster now. Before, guys, literally all you needed was one of about 4 notorious bureaucrats on your file, and you were screwed. And everybody knows the names. I don't need to say them. And if they watch this, they know who they are. They know who
Right.
they are. So now those 4 bureaucrats, as soon as I see them on the file, I just keep an eye on, right? And if all the other bureaucrats that are doing their job and they're checking off, I don't even wait. I just go, Luke, this guy's going to hold me up again.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, guys,
Love
they still have a long way to go, but I even tell them, I think you guys are halfway to where you need to be, but it's an awesome half. Yeah.
Yeah, it's much better. So, for
Way
those
better.
listening, why was this parking lot so important to you?
Oh, because we got the 30,000 square foot building next door. We need the parking because we're adding 44 residential units to that one.
Nice.
So, yeah, so we need all the parking we can get. So we bought the little one because it's got a parking lot at the back for 30 parking spots.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so that
awesome.
really helps.
See? All strategic planning. Yes.
Yeah, it's like Pinky in the Brain, man.
That's it. That's it. So,
The
and
Pinky in
then
the Brain
yes.
guy's from Detroit, by the way, the voice.
Yeah, and for those that are hearing this that are like, "Okay, I wanna do this," there's also, like, if you're not going with CMHC and doing the 95% financing and whatever,
Yeah,
there's many other programs available, and the costs are pretty fair for the construction, and you can get these projects done as well. So don't think, like, if you're not going with CMHC, like, this is not for you. It literally,
sure.
like, there's always a product for when you're developing these types of things. But I think developing is truly where it makes the most sense because we have investors everywhere. And you probably hear it. Like we've been blessed because Windsor's been one of those areas that you could buy anything and it would cash flow. And now that's
Yeah,
kind of going away. You can still find cash flow, but you got to
yeah,
be a little more strategic, right? And other areas, you can't really buy cash flow, depending, of course. So when you build something like this, you have much more control over it. We don't have to worry about rent control if it's brand new,
right,
which is
right.
nice, right? Because then you can raise the rents to whatever market is as opposed to what the government dictates. So that's great. And then you have control over the building. Do you know what I mean? Like you can set it up however you want. So it's
Yeah.
pending guidelines, of course, but like you have the power. So I love it. I love it.